more than 200 children have gotten lead poisoning at a Chinese kindergarten. The local government is blaming the food, but it could be something even worse. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. China is not exactly known for its food safety. From the notorious gutter oil, that time cooking oil was reportedly carried in the same trucks as fuel. There have been many food scandals in China. Bit of advice, if you go to China, stay away from the cooking oil. But of course, China's food safety scandals are particularly horrifying when children are involved. Like back in 2008 when, according to official Chinese records, milk powder tainted with the toxic chemical melamine killed 6 babies and sickened 300,000. Yeah. China's parents still haven't recovered from that. And yet somehow, these kinds of things just keep happening. Like right now. This time, over 200 children were hospitalized in China after their school served them lead-tainted food. Or at least, that's the official story coming from the Chinese authorities. Yes, a story about poisoning. I guess China has more in common with their BFFs Russia than we thought. But is tainted food really what happened? Some Chinese people aren't buying it, and for good reason. To understand why, let's start at the beginning. This is Hesher Peishin Kindergarten in Tianshui, Gansu province. Several months back, it's unclear exactly how many, parents of children attending the kindergarten started noticing some unusual symptoms in their kids. Things like vomiting, fevers, nightmares, hair loss, stomach aches, loss of appetite, and behavioral changes, such as short temper and becoming irritable for no reason. On top of this, some parents said that their children had developed blackness around their teeth. Some of these symptoms had been going on for months. So around the beginning of July, the parents took their kids to see a doctor. But here's where things start to get a little weird, because according to Chinese state media, some of the parents complained that local clinics in Tianshui did not properly test and diagnose their children. And by not properly testing and diagnosing, I mean they told the parents that the blood test results were normal. Weird. The parents were obviously skeptical, so some of them took their children about 200 miles away to Xi'an to get a second opinion. That's right, they didn't just go to a different clinic or hospital. They went to a different city, in an entirely different province. That's the kind of trust Chinese people have in their local governments. But even in Xi'an, the parents faced problems. They claim that Tianshui city officials went all the way to Xi'an, where they tried to interfere with parents getting the test results. Meanwhile, a staff member at China Central Hospital posted a video revealing that the hospital was under pressure from Tianshui to not release the test results. Yeah, there's definitely something fishy going on here. Still, some parents were able to get blood lead level test results in Xi'an after an anxious wait, and those results were not reassuring. Many of the children had between 200 and 500 micrograms per liter, while one child had 528 micrograms per liter. To give you a sense of how insane this is, the Chinese National Health Agency considers it severe lead poisoning if it's above 450. And normal is anything below 0.48. So yeah, the results were shocking. One parent even reportedly fainted after hearing them. Meanwhile, parents who couldn't get test results in Xi'an went all the way to Shanghai or Tianjin. But former Chinese investigative journalist Deng Fei posted online that Tianshui sent people to Xi'an, Shanghai, and Tianjin to persuade parents to bring their children back to Tianshui for treatment. And by persuade, I mean that Tianshui officials used not reimbursing medical insurance as the bargaining chip to force the children to return to Tianshui for treatment. God, they somehow found a way to be even worse than an HMO. Meanwhile, it seems like someone was also putting pressure on hospitals in Shanghai. One post by an alleged Shanghai doctor said on July 11th, "We received a reminder from the Shanghai Public Health Organization that medical institutions cannot make any remarks related to Tianshui lead poisoning and cannot treat patients from the Tianshui kindergarten." In another post, a blogger stated that Shanghai was no longer accepting children with lead poisoning from Tianshui. How oddly specific. There are also posts alleging that the Gansu provincial government sent people to harass the victims' families days after the whole drama unfolded. Which, wouldn't exactly be out of character for a Marxist-Leninist regime like China. Honestly, it could have been worse, since it's nice hearing a story about doctors on this show that doesn't involve forced organ removals. Gotta take the silver linings where you can get them, and hope the silver color isn't from lead. But with the lead-poisoned students receiving so much attention online, something had to be done. So the Tianshui local government launched an investigation and released their results. And what did they find? Well, firstly, they found that out of 251 children at the kindergarten, 233 had an abnormally high amount of lead in their blood. So there were 18 who didn't. I wonder why. Foreshadowing. They also found out how the kids got poisoned. You see, like many kindergartens in China, Husher Peishin is a private school funded mainly by tuition paid by the students' parents. So a while back, according to the official report given to state-run CCTV, the principal and an investor in the school decided that the kitchen staff should buy paints to put in the food to make it look pretty, for pictures, and apparently also feed to the children. For some reason. Do they really think that's what parents are looking for? Pretty food? Forget curriculum. What they really want for their kids' education is a place where the food looks like soap in a lush. The investigation team also tested food from the school. 2 food samples from the kindergarten, a red date steamed breakfast cake and a sausage corn roll, were found to have lead levels totaling more than 2,000 times the national food safety standard. They say Chinese kindergartens are the absolute best in the world. Finally, when the principal and the investor confessed, the investigators raided the school and found the hidden paints. The packaging clearly marked that they were not edible. The investigators even tested the kids and the food from 3 other kindergartens with the same investor. All came back normal. So there you have it, case closed. The kids were poisoned by a marketing scheme gone horribly awry. And only 1 kindergarten was affected. 8 people were detained, including the principal, the investor, and 6 of the school's kitchen staff. Of course, the parents were none too happy with the situation. Same with the teachers, some of whom also had lead poisoning. I'd say color me surprised, but knowing how they color things, I don't want to get poisoned. But the perpetrators were arrested, so everything's good, right? No, wrong. The thing is, some Chinese netizens suspect that there's more to this story than just misused paints. One woman told CNN, "All the parents think food is not the actual source of the lead poisoning, but we don't know the exact reasons." Why would parents think that? Well, there are a lot of things that don't add up. Adding, by the way, is something these kids would have learned if they hadn't gotten lead poisoning. For one, the paints supposedly came from Daxing Pigments, which put out a statement claiming that its pigments don't contain lead. Its products also had the red stamp showing that it had a certificate of no heavy metals. On top of that, many people pointed out online that food dyes are generally about the same price as paints, and some are even cheaper. So why would the school use paints to color the food instead of food dyes? It's not to save money. Are they just poisoning kids for the love of the game? And how is poisoning kids a game? There's more. Remember when I said 2 food samples from the kindergarten were found to have lead levels totaling more than 2,000 times the national food safety standard? Well, some people wonder how that would be possible unless you put in lots and lots of painted pigments. Like tons, way more than this. Plus, most of the food samples tested came back normal. So how did the children eat enough of the lead-filled foods to get so sick? One woman said, "The children only eat 3-color jujube steam cake and corn sausage rolls once or twice a week. How could they be poisoned so seriously?" Further adding suspicion is how netizens reported that several parents confirmed some children always brought food from home and didn't eat at the school. So why would children who never ate the school's meals also show elevated blood levels? And then, of course, there's the rigmarole the parents went through with the clinics and hospitals. Why would the local government go through all of that just to protect a few school staff and one investor, only to turn on them when the public outcry got too big? But I mean, where else could the lead possibly have come from? I don't think there's another logical explanation. Totally unrelated, this is a lead-zinc transfer station located just up the road from the kindergarten. That lead-zinc transfer station is owned by Baiyin Non-Ferrous Metals Group, a state-owned enterprise supervised by the Gansu provincial government. But hey, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Like it was a coincidence that a coronavirus epidemic started in a city that also had a major lab studying coronaviruses. And at least, according to one netizen, the local water supply system has two sets. Regular neighborhoods use tap water, but because water fees are expensive locally and the kindergarten is on the ground floor, the kindergarten uses water from a privately dug well. What does that mean? It means the groundwater system for the entire area could be incredibly contaminated. In that scenario, only the teachers and kids would be poisoned because they drank water from the on-site well. Remember those 18 students whose blood lead levels were normal? It's possible they only drank from water bottles they brought from home. Of course, this is all speculation. We don't have any cold, hard evidence for this explanation, but it does fit the facts, and it could go a long way in explaining why the initial cover-up happened. It's worth noting that in the wake of the kindergarten scandal, the Chinese internet has been abuzz with screenshots of a 2010 study on rural lead poisoning in the area. It's also worth noting that Tianshui was the site of another lead poisoning incident in 2006, when more than 200 people were found to have high levels of the toxin in their blood. No official cause was ever announced, though a nearby lead and zinc smelter plant was accused of illegally releasing waste into the area. The Epoch Times says that Tianshui officials back in 2006 reacted the same way they did to this year's kindergarten scandal. They conducted tests at the time proving that villagers didn't have any lead poisoning problems, only to be proven wrong by Xi'an tests later on. If this whole kindergarten scandal is really just a case of food poisoning, really awful, horrible food poisoning, then this only reinforces people's distrust in China's domestic food quality. If this is about environmental safety, then this goes to show how China has failed to address heavy metal pollution, which is terrible, especially after the CCP promised that it would get on that after more than a dozen heavy metal poisoning scandals in 2009. Either way, it's not a great look for the CCP. And neither is the massive distrust all of this is causing, which is why the central government is now getting involved in the so-called investigation. How much money do you think I should put on them siding with the "it was just an isolated food incident" story? Ultimately, of course, it's the CCP that incentivizes this kind of system, where local officials hide facts to protect themselves from the wrath of the central party. As long as the CCP continues to hold power in China, this is how local governments are going to act, poisoning citizens just like their BFFs Russia. Before you go, if you want more great China coverage like this, subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. It has a ton of stuff you won't see anywhere else. And the best part is, it's not just free, it's lead-free. And click here to see what was the darkest story I'd ever covered before this one. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching China Uncensored.